With us also this morning is a gentleman that I had a chance to just say hi to for 30 seconds at the DNC. And it was great. He was busy talking to a number of different people, but I had a chance to say, hi, nice to meet you, as I was heading off to go and talk to some other folks. But with us, we have Rear Admiral Michael Smith, retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. For those of you who don't know, an admiral is tantamount, or one might say from the Navy, a general is tantamount to an admiral, or an admiral is tantamount to a general. But either way, these are men and women who've been proud representatives of our military. And Rear Admiral Michael Smith is with us this morning. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. And really appreciate you hooking up after our brief meeting there at DNC.
Yeah, you were busy, and you were getting started with an interview with I think it was Joan and or Patty, and I was like, I didn't want to interrupt you then, but I definitely wanted to make connection with your people about having you on the show and chatting a little bit. So, you know, as I say to everybody, because I always like to make this about a conversation, I'm not a gotcha kind of guy. I want to talk to folks and find out what they're working on, what they're doing to help our country move forward and get better and stronger. And I appreciate you taking some time to chat with us this morning. One of my questions, kind of right out of the gate, you were there at the DNC, and so it's easy to be biased about what one saw and what one's feelings were. But what are your thoughts on the convention, and what are your thoughts about the sustainability of the energy that was clearly at the United Center?
Thanks for the question. I thought that DNC was just an amazing success. First of all, certainly, one of the main reasons, as you know, to the DNC is to motivate the workers are going to have the hard job of going out there and sustaining that momentum and getting the vice president elected. But I think where I really was impressed with was how well they did at introducing the vice president to the American people. A role of a vice president is to accomplish all this work in the background and let the spotlight stay on the president. So they just did a remarkable job explaining her roots and her values and what she's going to do for the American people. So I thought it was a success all around.
Sustainability. What do you think is going to take to keep that energy forward for the next, 57, 58 days?
I think it's just a lot of hard work. I think, they'll go back and look at this and what a historic and meteoric rise, in the outlook for the ticket once she took over. I don't know if anyone can sustain that momentum she did in August, but certainly keeping the upward trajectory and getting out to the battleground states and connecting with the people, it's just going to require a lot of work by all of us, especially to counter the lies and slander and attacks that Donald Trump, is just going to pour her way for the next, 60 days.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. It's hard work. I was saying earlier in the show that one of the things that's critically important, Judge Merchan decided to postpone the sentencing until November 26th. And I said, don't let that be a distraction to folks, and don't let that get you down. Stay focused. We in many ways just have to, it's an opportunity to dig in a little bit stronger and to use a naval term, to move that battleship in the right direction. That's all we have to do, is just stay focused and not lose sight of where the horizon is. I mean, seriously, it is really simple to state, but the work that comes with it is what everybody's got to kind of, check themselves on. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And there is so much disinformation out there that we've got to take, credible messengers out there and explaining to the people the facts. This isn't like his first term, with alternative facts. These we have to break through the disinformation and let people know what Donald Trump really is going to bring if you let him back in the Oval Office, as opposed to, how Kamala Harris is going to take care of the American people and focus on the middle class.
Yeah, many of you don't know this, and I paused to kind of introduce it, but the Admiral is one of the leaders and originators of the National Security for Leaders of America. NSL4A is the acronym, and that was launched back in 2021 to obviously help protect democracy. And I'm excited about it because you've got an event, a fundraiser coming up on Friday. Is that correct? A virtual fundraiser. Is that right?
That's correct. We're doing it for the campaign. We've got a panel of national security experts. They're all our members. It's Secretary John Kerry, Ambassador Susan Rice, Michelle Flournoy, and former Senator Kerry. And Bill Kristol is going to moderate it, and it's going to be a discussion just on national security and the threats and the way forward.
So a question that I asked last week, and during the Bush 2 administration, as I like to call it, Bush 2, it's easier sometimes than HW than JHW and all that. But during the Bush 2 administration, Vice President Dick Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, and Paul Wolfowitz put themselves out as national security savants, essentially. We know more about this than you do. Listen to us, et cetera, et cetera. You remember the rhetoric. And I think that it's fair to say that Donald Trump is the biggest national security. As much as he is on all the other things we talk about with regard to democracy, he's a national security threat, without a doubt. So in your opinion or your observation or experience, Admiral, can you maybe drop some knowledge on why you think there's still two of those four people, Bush, Rice, Wolfowitz, and Cheney? Cheney, who's come out and said he's going to vote for Vice President Harris. But why do you think that the former president and the former national security advisor have not spoken to that yet?
I think at the end of the day, people are worried both about their legacy, and they're worried, I hope that they are looking forward to the day that Donald Trump leaves the scene, and they can come forward, and we can have a Republican Party that just represents a certain ideology, and all we're doing is arguing over policy, not fundamental threats to our national security. So I think they're just keeping their heads down, and they're waiting for Donald Trump to go away. I hope that's the best that I can come up with.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of people would agree with you that their legacy is what they're trying to protect. But I guess I kind of take a counter thought to that, not to your thinking, but just to their potential thinking, which is if you want to maintain your legacy, then coming out and speaking toward the importance of protecting us from a national security standpoint is important. And that's why I'm endorsing Vice President Harris. But that's kind of how I see it. Protecting your legacy would be taking action to speak against the thing that is a national security threat. But I don't know. It's sort of a one, I guess.
I agree completely. I mean, especially some of these former, leaders that were in his administration that are quiet, that are saying, "Oh, well, I am a retired general officer and I shouldn't be speaking out." No, you were in a politically appointed position, and you have insights into Donald Trump's behavior that the voter needs to understand. Come out and talk. That's your legacy. Well, how you can inform the people and ensure he never returns to the Oval Office. That's your responsibility to the Constitution, not to be quiet and protect some legacy that history will tarnish because you're not speaking out.
That's so true. Stand for something rather than standing on the sidelines. And they seem to be doing that. And I only packaged it that way in my question because of the fact that they made it clear, or at least they said that they were the national security. They were the ones. They knew more about national security than anybody else did. And to listen to them, we know what we're talking about. I mean, I'm paraphrasing essentially what former President Bush said, but Condoleezza Rice was right there, supporting that. We know more than you do. because of what you just said. They've seen all the data and the details and the information. So you would think that they would go, oh, wait a minute, we've got to create a firewall against this guy, irrespective of partisan beliefs. This one area right here is a threat to our national security, and it baffles me that they just can't step to that, and many others are in that same camp. So, Project 2025. Got to ask you about that. I mean, there's on Friday there's a colleague of mine that we take some time and we kind of try to peel parts of it apart and talk about it to make it a little bit more digestible for folks who may not want to read a 922-page document. And we try to break it down, and I try to make it specific about things that could happen to you as an individual. So I'm going to ask you to lean into that a little bit and where your thoughts are with regard to Project 2025, if you would.
I think Project 2025 exactly explains why in my case, every retired general and admiral has to speak up. If you read what they want to do to the military, the strength of our nation has been the foundation of that strength has been our military, and our military's ability to be non-political. And no matter who the change of administration is, I served under many different administrations, Republican and Democrats. The active duty military has to be non-political. But if you read Project 2025, they're going to have a political litmus test in the White House. For every 3- and 4-star that gets nominated to be promoted, it's going to go to the White House, and they're going to go down their checklist. Has he said anything about diversity? Has he, this whole anti-woke, checklist of theirs, and they're going to politicize that. And the other strength of our military is the civilian control of the military. And Roger, every 4 years, a new administration comes in. But you have professionals, civilians, under those political appointees that are the legacy. They've been there for years, and they understand, and they're able to educate the incoming political leadership. But Project 2025 with Schedule F, what they're going to do is they're going to allow the administration to come in and fire all of those people if they don't happen to have the same political views as the White House. That's just dangerous. So to me, I think Project 2025 will politicize the military. And as far as the people are concerned, they need to understand what Donald Trump tried to do when he was in the Oval Office. He wanted to use active duty military against peaceful protesters. My son and I marched in the Black Lives Matter marches in Washington, D.C. They were very peaceful. People were just expressing their frustrations. And he was in the Oval Office trying to figure out if he could use active duty troops against them. And he'll do that. That's what Project 2025 is. This is about fundamentally attacking individual freedoms.
General Milley was one of the active duty members of the military that he tried to basically use and abuse in that space. I mean, and what are your thoughts about that? I mean, I don't want to sound too hyperbolic, but what are your thoughts about the way in which he tried to manipulate General Milley?
That the Lafayette Square incident is where they just, used whatever it was, pepper spray or whatever, against, individuals who were calmly protesting. There was no riot or anything like that. And then President Trump walked through Lafayette Square, and he brought the chairman with him in his uniform, walking across in a political stunt. Now, to the general's credit, as soon as he realized what was going on, he left. But the President Trump saw the military as just a bunch of props. It's what he just did at Arlington. The one place you're just not supposed to have politics. He used the the headstones of our fallen heroes as just a political prop, because that's how he views the military, or anyone really. How does he use that person to advance his gains? So, yeah, it was totally inappropriate what he did with the chairman. But luckily the general saw what was going on and walked away. But now he's Donald Trump went on and talked about how there should be a death penalty against Miley for his lack of loyalty. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and we've got to get that back into the conscience of the American people. They've forgotten how dangerous Donald Trump is.
Absolutely. So a couple things as we kind of wrap up a little bit. I want to, first of all, I really hope that you'll come back and be with us in the future. As we get closer to the election, we'll probably want to chat with you again on some of the developments that will take place, certainly to your point, in this campaign season. But as we wrap up, after this election has come and gone, what are some of the goals for your organization?
Well, first of all, if the results are correct, and Kamala Harris is in the Oval Office, we're going to sit back and we have to evaluate the overall threat. It isn't just Donald Trump. Unfortunately, he's been around since 2015 and has promoted these other anti-democratic candidates and politicians in the Republican Party in Washington, D.C., that I think we still need to work to get rid of. We need to promote pro-democracy candidates to go against those anti-democratic forces so that we can once and for all rid Trumpism from our government.
Absolutely. How can folks find you? How can folks follow, get involved, learn something from what you and your wonderful organization are doing, Admiral?
Please go to our website, www.nsl4a.org. We're on X at NSL for America, and plenty of opportunities to get involved, to donate. There's so much work to do, and we could really use your audience's support. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come back.
Absolutely, we will, and I appreciate you taking the time, and I know you hear this a lot, but it comes from someone who also has military family. Thank you for your service, but not just your past, but your current service and what you're going to be doing in the future. So, Admiral, I really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Be well and stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.